Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be painting some contour faces or using some contour drawings to paint a face. So I'm working in my craft journal and I'm just going in with some mineral paint. So it's a slightly bluish neutral colour, which I really like. Quite often in my craft journal I do feel a bit guilty about this, but you know, sometimes I really like the craft peeking through and sometimes I just want to colour my page. So there's no right or wrong to it. If you get carried away, you get carried away. So in this I am going in with, I've put the layer of mineral in the background and then I've used a very watery coat of marine over the top. And then I'm rubbing away through a mask. So this mask is from Scrap FX. So you've got this beautiful, you know, subtle bit of stenciling in the background. And I'm sort of layering this up a little bit. So now I'm going in with a soft pink color. And I will do the same again over the top with my stencil or a different stencil and rub it away, so I can still see that text, but I've got some different effects happening in the background. Now if you don't particularly like it, you can sort of soften off the edges a little bit, so I just use a wet wipe to wipe some of that away. To do the ghosting technique like I've just done, it's really important you've got dry layers underneath your wet layer, so it needs to be really dry, otherwise the colors are going to blend together for one, and you're going to wipe away both layers if it's not dry underneath. So just be really aware. I have had some people go, oh, it's not working for me. So must have a dry layer, then put your wet layer over top, then rub away the wet layer and you'll get that contrast. So this tissue paper is from Scrap FX. It's just a really simple contour drawing or line drawing. Now TAFE a long time ago, when I was doing life drawing, we had to do contour drawings, so I have done them before. They were never my forte. I never felt happy enough with them, but one thing I have been experimenting with is with some blank tissue paper or transparencies. You can actually put a magazine image underneath and just draw around the image with one line to get a similar effect. So you can create your own, or you can go and buy them. So whatever works for you. I'm going in with my usual range of colours. Instead of using the magenta, which is quite a cool pink colour, I'm using, I think this is Rouge, which is a warmer pink colour. And I'm obviously using yellow as my highlight colour. And then I've got some Ocean as my shadow colour. And I'm just building up the layers of colour. So while it looks quite opaque on here, I am actually using quite thin layers of paint and trying to layer up the paint as much as possible, so I sort of get the shading I want. Now it's fairly forgiving if you sort of get on a bit heavy-handed. You can always get a wet wipe and wipe it away, or you can add some more of your other colors over the top and blend them together. While I have been using the heat gun a little bit, I'm trying to keep this not as wet as possible, but I suppose as damp as possible, so I can blend these colours together a little bit. I do want some blending happening. So you saw with the yellow and the rouge, so I sort of mixed it together. I got some of those orangey tones with it as well. You can see me getting my finger in there and blending some stuff together. And I'm using those lines from the contour drawing to help guide me. So while in the video it's quite difficult to see those contour lines, I can still see them as I'm going along, because the layers of paint are not that opaque, that I can still see what's happening underneath, which I find really handy. So once I've finished popping down my paint layer, now I'm going in with the Distress watercolors, using similar colors I've used in the background, and I'm using really, really scribbly lines. So I'm being really, really loose with how I am colouring to add some texture and some interest over the top. And it looks a bit mad, but that's okay. This is where you can, go really wild with your colours. So I'm using those base colours that I've put before. They are now my guide. So I originally had those contour lines to sort of show where I'm putting my colour. Now I'm using the patches of colour I've got underneath as my guide to do this, and layering up from darkest to light. Once I've finished, I'm going to go in now with my Stabilo Oil Pencil and retrace over those contour lines. So again, I've got a bit of a guide of where I'm going. So I'm not having to do this freehand. Those lines are already there. I'm being quite generous with where I'm going. If I miss a line, that's okay. It is just a little bit of a guide. To make the face a little more realistic, it's still quite an abstract face, I've finished off the eye. So you will find your faces in particular look a little bit odd until you've actually finished the eye, because an eye is what we focus on, or our brain focuses on, to go, oh, that's a face. And to make eyes look a little bit more realistic by putting that little catch-all, that little dot of white in our pupil, helps to tie it all together. So now I'm going in, because I've got that beautiful background that's calling out for something, I'm going in and popping in a quote. And I'm using a chrome gold pen. This is a Life of Colour Mirror Effect pen. That's really, really shiny. From my point of view, I've got this really bright gold going across the page. I know on screen it sort of looks a little bit dull, but when you photograph it, you can sort of see those slightly shinier bits as I move the page. So it's a really cool effect. And I've just really liked this quote. So it's be patient with everyone, especially yourself, because I'm very good at being very patient with everyone else and having time. But when it comes to myself, it's just like, no, it needs to be done now. Or, why aren't you doing this? So I need to take some of that patience I have for other people and bring it into myself. I'm just going around with the white pen to do a little bit of a drop shadow. Again, on this page it's quite difficult to see, but in the close-up you will see how that white sort of helps lift the page a little bit, and how it helps pop everything out from the background. The one thing I've found with the craft journal in particular is, if I didn't have that acrylic paint in the background, the paint pen would really soak into the page. So the craft pages in this journal in particular are quite thirsty. It will really sort of suck everything into the fibers of the page. So if you're finding that's happening, or if you want to have mostly craft on the page and then write a quote over it, I would suggest giving it a bit of seal with a gel medium or a clear gesso over the top. It will make your page a little bit darker, but it really won't affect the colour too much. But it will help, certainly if you're writing over the top, for it to really pop out. So you can see here how that layering of colour and scribbling over the top has really helped pop that colour and that face out of the page and made it look even more abstract. How that little pop of white against that gold has really helped push it out from the background. So I hope you will have a go at doing something similar to this. It's lots and lots of fun. It's a great way to practice shading faces with funky colours, and until next time, bye for now.